What's up and welcome back to another live stream with GizmoSlipTech. Today we are going to be testing out the Kingston FURY Impact RAM that's rated for 6400 megatransfers per second. And we're going to be doing it with the XMG Neo 17, which allows custom timings in the BIOS. Now, not all laptops will allow custom timings. If you get this RAM, you may have to just use whatever timings the laptop runs at by default with this. Now this is certified by Intel XMP or whatever, so maybe it would still have pretty good timings depending on the laptop and the motherboard, depending on what the manufacturers basically let the timings run at. So that's one of the things that I wanted to test today. We'll see what the default timings are when we pop this RAM into the XMG Neo 17, and then of course we'll put in some timings ourselves. And we've got a lot of things we're going to be testing today. You can see the goals for today. The first goal for the overall video live stream is the Kingston FURY Impact worth buying? I have not put these in the laptop yet. I am not even sure that it's going to work. We may run into snags right away, and this might be a short live stream, but we'll have to find out. All right, so we're going to talk about the laptop. We're going to talk about the default RAM, which is included, which is SK Hynix DDR5-5600 with a CAS latency of 46. This Kingston FURY Impact RAM is rated out of the box to be DDR5-5600 with a CAS latency of 40, which is a tighter timing, which should, in theory, imply faster response latency, less delay, faster memory overall. So we'll have to see what the out-of-the-box performance is going to be like. We are going to look at the benefits of faster memory. We're going to look at the memory overclocking process. We're actually just going to do it all live right here. Like, I've never tested this in here. I've not put this in the laptop yet. We're going to put it in there together, and we're going to find out if the system can even boot. We're also going to establish a baseline for our overall speed. We're going to do an 8-64 test, which actually I've already done the baseline for that, but we'll do a baseline when we put this in with the stock timings, and then we'll do it again with the overclocked timings. And then we're going to do some stability testing, and we're going to do 5 games with the SK Hynix RAM here before we put the Kingston FURY in. So that'll be the first step, really, is doing the 5-game baseline to see what kind of performance we get out of the box with the laptop, and then do we actually get any benefits? Like, is there any perks to actually buying the Kingston FURY RAM or not? And yeah, we will see. What's up, Logic and LSP? I'm doing well. All right. Thank you for thanks for hoping, I guess. Yeah. Okay. So, let's go over what this RAM is, where you can buy it, all that good stuff. What are the specs on it? So I bought this from Newegg, $146 to upgrade to the 32 gig model, and you're only going to be able to go to the really fast RAM speeds, like 6400 on the 32, 8, and 16 total two RAM modules together, like the total capacity. Because basically, if you go to the 2 32 gig modules, there's going to be more limitations added. So the 32 gig modules, there's no ECC. So that means there's no error correcting code, which means it's more likely to throw errors if you are overclocking it. It's a higher density RAM. It's probably not going to be as overclocking friendly. And the timing is still tight. You still get CL40. So if you need 64 gigs, you can probably run this at DDR5-5600, even though theoretically the Intel platform, I believe, only supports 5200 megatransfers with the i9. But you may be able to get 5600 working. That's essentially an overclock with CL40. But the fact that it's rated for CL40 and it's 5600, if you need 64 gigs of RAM, then this is probably the best kit to go with. That said, if you want the best performing kit for games and mini applications, then you probably will want the 32 gig one, because it's literally rated for faster speeds. Like, if you go to their website, it says only 8, 16, and 32 gig module capacities up to 6400 mega transfers. So like this RAM is literally like rated as far as I know, the fastest laptop memory that I've been able to find. There, if you know some other one, there very well may be other options out there. But as far as I know, this is the fastest one that I could find. There's not that many options, honestly. If you search on Newegg, this was like, this one and a few other Crucial kits were the primary ones. And then of course, SK Hynix would be another option. But those are the primary options. And this one has the top rated specs. Now, if you go to their website, you can see on the key features, this is supposed to be plug and play automatic overclocking, but I don't know how well that's actually going to work. We'll see when we plug this in to the XMG, Neo 17 here. What are the automatic memory timings that we get? It says this is Intel XMP, Extreme Memory Profiles, what XMP stands for, 3.0 certified, supposed to maximize your performance with pre-optimized timings. The thing is, if you have if your laptop doesn't have custom memory overclocking to where you can actually set the timings, you may literally have just no options at all in your laptop BIOS. So like, I don't believe my Razer laptop would even have any kind of memory timings to speak of, so you're gonna have to use whatever default timings are there out of the box. Now, improved stability with an on-die error correcting code, or ECC, and this helps maintain data integrity while hitting overclocking speeds. So as you tighten your timings and increase your mega transfer speed, basically you're more likely to get errors as the data is shuffling around. And if you get errors, that can cause data corruption and cause your system to crash or blue screen or whatever. So it's not good. So having an onboard ECC should, in theory, help prevent crashing and stuff like that when you're overclocking. Now, the laptop that we're doing today is the XMG Neo 17 with an i9-13900HX with an RTX 4090. The i9 is undervolted, and the RTX 4090 is also overclocked with a plus 200 on the core clock and plus 1000 on the memory. And like I said, out of the box, we have SK Hynix DDR5-5600 RAM in here with a cast latency of 46. We'll be taking a look at that. So we already have pretty fast RAM in the laptop itself, and that RAM is overclockable. Your mileage will vary because that RAM's not really designed to be overclocked the same way this Kingston FURY Impact RAM is supposedly designed to be overclocking friendly. Like literally by the manufacturer, this is supposed to be designed to be more overclocking friendly. Now there are links in the description to both the RAM and the XMG Neo 17, or the American version of this, which is the Electronics Mech 17 GP2. So if you're interested in buying the laptop or the RAM, there are links in the description down below. And this laptop is also a water-cooled laptop, meaning there's literally a water cooler attached to the back of the laptop right now, helping cool the laptop, and we have air moving through the laptop as well. We'll have the air basically be on boost mode so that we have additional air to help cool the memory when we're overclocking it. Which obviously we don't want the memory to get too hot. If you don't have air going through your system, you may not get enough airflow to the memory modules, and you can cause, your memory may crash or overheat or cause shutdowns because you're taking it too hot. But as far as I know, probably not. Now, typically when you overclock memory, you're trying to find those custom timings. You go to like the motherboard or memory manufacturers and you look for those custom timings. In this situation, I couldn't find anything like that. So what we're going to be using is the XMG's custom memory tuning experiences from other users and what timings and latency timings and mega transfer speeds they were able to get to be stable. So this user Nico over here, and there's a link to this sheet as well in the description down below. Nico here got up to this Kingston FURY Impact up to 6400 CL32, and they have all of their timings, including all those sub timings, in this sheet, and we're gonna try using Nico's timings, almost like an XMP profile, which you would get on a motherboard out of the box. We're just going to try to copy some other user timings in today's test to see if they're stable and see if we can test the gaming performance improvement today. So let's let's go through all the things that we're going to be talking about today. So I went ahead and explained the laptop. The SK Hynix DDR5-5600 memory, I was able to overclock that. Let's talk about some performance metrics, some numbers here. The chipset won't do 5600 if it's 64 gig. Well, it's not approved out of the box, but it would be like an overclock, Britt, if you're doing 64 gigs, like in the same way that you're not supposed to do, the chipset's not rated to do 6400, it's rated for 5600. So we'll have to see, you know, that's basically like an overclock, basically. Okay, so right here's the water cooler controller, and you can see the water cooler right back there, and we are hooked up and running with our water cooler. All right, and let's go ahead and show you some performance numbers for Ada 64. So here's the default RAM test. Let's go ahead and turn off. I don't know why I cannot touch that right now. Okay, I guess it shut down. Ah, there we go. All right. Okay, so here's our default performance that we're looking to beat. This is the SK Hynix 5600 with cast latency of 46, 45, 45, 89 for the primary timings. Dual channel DDR5 5600 RAM, and you can see they got the i9-13900HX. We got 83,000 megabits per second with 87 nanoseconds for our latency. And then we're not going to focus on the L1, L2, L3 cache as much, but if you want to look at those numbers and compare, you're welcome to do so. When we upgraded our RAM, overclocked it. When we overclocked the SK Hynix, we got 101 gigabits per second, so, or 102 basically. So that was about a 25% throughput improvement. Our latency also went down to 66.3. So, you know, latency and read speed can be pretty influential for your gaming experience. When the levels are loading in and out, and when, you know, your game engine is trying to access different parts of the game and calculate things between the CPU and GPU, that's basically what you're looking for. You want good throughput and you want good response time in your memory, and the faster memory and the better throughput it has, the better your 1% lows and your overall FPS can be. Now, your average FPS is probably not going to be as affected by memory as much as your 1% lows. Your 1% lows are going to be probably the biggest indicator of memory gain or memory performance improvement, in my opinion, at this time. So our average FPS, I'm hoping, might go up a little bit in these titles, but realistically, I'm really going to focus on the 1% lows. Yeah, Britt Allen, you may be right. It may be a limitation of the memory controller, but I don't know. Can I use these RAMs on my 4800 megahertz Asus DDR5 laptop? That's a great question. And I think you probably can, but I don't know if it's going to run at the full speeds, because if the BIOS is not compatible, it may try to run these Kingston FURY Impacts at 4800, but it still may be tighter timings at 4800. And if it's tighter timings, you still may get more performance out of them. So that's why I think it's very important when we're doing this test, what does the XMG Neo do out of the box with no memory overclocking? So under the custom profiles, I'm going to disable memory overclocking. Okay, we're going to start off with no memory overclocking on the laptop at all. Let's go ahead and shut down the machine now. Well, hold on. We're not shutting down the machine yet. We got to do our baseline test. I'm being so silly. Okay, so we go to Steam. We need to open up we're going to do our 5 games. And we need to do our custom profile. Might as well just do a restart because I think things partially shut down. So we'll do a restart. Evan Williams, I can't wait to see how the 6400 RAM performs in the Lenovo i9. Yes, very interesting that Lenovo is selling it at DDR5-6400 out of the box because, I mean, that's a lot of pressure, I think, on Lenovo to get it right. Because if you're buying it from the manufacturer, then getting the timings to be tight and getting the clock speed on memory to be fast and stable, it's like selling a laptop with a strong overclock, basically. And I think that puts a lot of pressure on Lenovo to get it right. And I hope that we have great stability and you know, like I hope we don't run into any issues with the Legion 9i that I ordered, which I did order it with the 6400 memory. So yeah, Britt, I know you're not trying to argue with me. I think you're just trying to help me out. And you know, I don't know everything. I'm learning, and I'm trying to do the best I can with the information I've got. So, and I can be wrong about stuff too. So I'm perfectly okay with being wrong. Okay, so we are dealing with out-of-the-box performance. We're in the custom profile. Yeah, it's going to be just the stock settings with no memory overclocking with the SK Hynix DDR5-5600. And we're going to do the 5 games that I mentioned here. So Starfield, Warzone 2, Cyberpunk 2077, Hogwarts, and Shadow of the Tomb Raider. So let's go ahead and load into Starfield for our first game test. And let's make sure that our overclock is applied. So you can see our overclock plus 200/1000. It's a very stable overclock as far as I can tell. Really not that demanding. I can get it all the way up to 250 without crashing in pretty much anything. So we're like well below the threshold with this laptop for crashing. We need to get our overlay turned on though. There we go. Okay, so do they have... Okay, so wow, interesting. So they don't have my latest saves. I'm actually level 73. Ever since I modded the game, they have not counted some of my latest saves. Okay, so for our memory testing, we are going to go to the city of New Atlantis or Aquila. I think we should do Aquila, because Aquila is a very demanding city. It's in the Cheyenne system. And the 1% lows are going to be very tricky in Aquila. So there's a lot of NPCs. There's almost always some stuttering as you load into the city. All right, so let's go ahead and check our settings. This game right now is unmodded. All right, we're going to do... so this is an all-stock install of Starfield, no mods. And we're going to do FSR at 75%, ultra preset with no changes. Except dynamic resolution, we're going to turn that off. Okay? So that means that we're upscaling just a little bit from 75% up to 100%. All right, and we should probably make sure it is daytime, I think. Okay, and right now I am overloaded with stuff, so I better go empty my, wow, I've got no mass on myself, or I've got no mass available on myself or on my, let's try, can I go back? All right, well, we just need to drop this. Emptying our inventory real quick. I was doing a bunch of crafting, I think, at this save, and so when you overload your inventory, you don't actually die, which is kind of hilarious. So, there we go. Okay, so now we can there we go. Cool. All right. We'll let our health heal up, and I want to save. Oh, look at all this random junk we just left on the ground. That's hilarious. Okay, so we need to wait. I want it to be daytime during this test, and then I'm gonna create a save. We can just use this as a benchmark save. So I'm gonna wait. We want it to be during the daylight hours, so we're gonna wait 7 hours of time. And then we should be able to get a good test, I think. All right, so there we go. All my stuff is still sitting around here. All right, nice. All right, so let me go ahead and do a save. All right, and this will be our baseline test for Starfield. We are not going to load anything in. We're just going to run from here, and then we're going to run all the way to the Ranger headquarters called The Rock. I guess we'll sprint and then we'll walk the rest of the way.
Mr. Tate, he's a realtor.
So our FPS right now, 78 on average, 43 for our 1% low. Let's see what we get here at the end.
Supposed to be some new age healing center for reforming.
Okay, so 78.45 for our Starfield test on ultra settings preset here in Aquila City, which is one of the more demanding areas. And honestly, 45 for a 1% low is really good for Aquila. That's better than my Blade 18 for sure. I definitely usually see some nice stutters, some big stutters, usually in Starfield. Okay. All right, so next up for our next game, we're doing Warzone 2. I know you guys were very curious about Warzone performance, and I am too, about memory overclocking in Warzone. Is it worth it or not? I think it is. I think I picked some good games today. Warzone 2 being a potentially it's very CPU bound, but potentially very memory sensitive game. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe it won't be. And then Cyberpunk 2077, of course, having a lot of NPCs. We'll see what the benchmark is like. And then we're in Hogwarts. We're going to be in a very NPC-centric area where there's just tons of NPCs. And Hogsmeade, again, very CPU-bound area. type of game, and the most CPU bound area of Hogwarts, except for maybe the primary area of Hogwarts, like the proper castle area. That's another area where it's kind of CPU bound as well. And then Shadow of the Tomb Raider will do the benchmark in Shadow of the Tomb Raider, which is another potentially memory sensitive title. So there's I'm excited to see if there's going to be any performance improvement or not. And we're going to be doing the tests at QHD. We could theoretically do the tests at 1080p resolution, but if we did them at 1080p, it's not really realistic to this QHD display. Who's going to play an RTX 4090 laptop with an i9 at 1080p? Not really needed. Kind of overkill, and it's far more realistic doing QHD testing. And yeah, so QHD testing, I think, is what, QHD gaming is primarily the resolution that people are going to be interested in seeing this memory results. People that are doing more budget entry level gaming laptops with like an RTX 4050, 4060, 4070, those laptops probably would not benefit as much from the memory speed increase anyway, because, well, maybe they would. I don't know. That'd be interesting to know too, wouldn't it? Putting these memory modules into some more budget chassis and seeing if they improve performance or not. But that's not the test for today, right? The test for today is at QHD resolution. Can we see a performance improvement or not? Because that's, like I said, that's what I think most of the gamers who are going to use a laptop like this would be testing it at, or potentially even higher resolution. A lot of folks play Modern Warzone 2 at 1080p if they're playing competitive to obtain the best FPS. But I had the same FPS at 1080p as I do at QHD because it's so CPU bound. So Warzone 2 is one of the few games where you're really not going to get much performance improvement usually by going down to 1080. So, and today we're doing minimum with DLSS on quality. Those are the presets. We're at the default resolution 2560 by 1600. So minimum preset, DLSS quality, 2560 by 1600. All right, so let's go ahead and get into a match. CPPC Tech says, what are the sub timings? We're going to go through all of the timings when we actually do the overclocking. Right now, we're in the stock SK Hynix DDR5-5600 with CL46. Marlin Gaming Nation has a question. Do you think the Ryzen 9 7845HX is better than the i9 13 HK Alienware M16? I'm trying to buy this today and need your opinion. So which CPU is better for the Alienware M16? Is there... I thought there was the i9 13900HX for the Alienware M16. And is there not a Ryzen 9 7945HX CPU? I don't know. That's an interesting... I don't know. That's a tough question to know for sure. I thought the Alienware M16 that I tested had the i9 13900HX, and then ideally I would get the HX CPU over the HK, because the HK has like 8 less E cores to them, which could be a big difference in performance. Okay. Dude, the shader optimization's almost done already. Like, it is like the shader optimization happens in the background. So I mean, it's not like it's not like it makes it like it'll like when you're playing the game, it's still going to be optimizing, you know? So okay. Marlon, I'd have to see the actual listings to know for sure which one is going to be better, because the prices also between those two CPUs might be different as well. Have you been using the ROG Ally since you reviewed it? I love mine. I'm using it more than my desktop or laptop these days. So I have used the Ally quite a bit, but the tricky part about the Ally is it cannot play Starfield. Starfield is too hard for it to play unless you're streaming over like with a cloud gaming service or streaming from your PC. So there's, I guess, limited Starfield application, and that's the game I've been playing a lot lately. Now I'm sure I could run Starfield from my Blade 18 and stream it to the Ally. That would probably work just fine, but that'd probably be the only situation right now where I would be playing or using the Ally. I did use the Ally quite a bit, even after I reviewed it, playing Brotato and some other games on it. Baldur's Gate 3, I played that a little bit on there. But yeah, I have not used it much in the last few weeks because Starfield has just been dominating my time. Okay, so Austin wants to know about this laptop. I've been trying to get to this. I've been just working through chat. $1,000 Acer Nitro 5 with it. 12th gen. Okay, so 12th gen i7 12650H, RTX 4050, 16 gigs DDR5, 1 terabyte for $1,000. Well, I would say that you can get a RTX 4060 for that price. If you're in America, at least, you can definitely, I think, potentially do a bit better. I don't know. Can this RAM be used on the XMG Neo laptop? Baka, that's what we're going to be testing it on today, the Neo 17. Because the Neo 17 has a BIOS that lets us mess with all of the timings. And we're going to be trying to copy some other Kingston FURY Impact users' timings. So right now we're doing 150 FPS, 113 for our 1% lows. I'm not seeing anyone that we can shoot right now, but we're getting some really great performance out of this laptop right now. Hey, there's someone we can. Oh, they died. Oh, there's someone we can shoot.
Enemy dropping into the AO. Training is over. Time to see what you have learned.
So very, very good performance here wherever we were at on the map. I'm not sure where we were at. And looks like we've got our standard map again today, which is good. I want to be able to do this test on the same map again. Interesting. See PPC tech. You'd have to really like do something to like neuter the, because when I tried Starfield on the lowest settings out of the box, it was not even getting 5 FPS. It was really, really bad performance. So you're gonna have to like do some pretty crazy modifications to get Starfield to run on the Ally. I'll bet you it's possible, but with mods is the main way you'd probably get it to run. 166 FPS right now for our average. It plays good. Must have had the old driver. Maybe. Maybe it's possible. I'll have to try it again. But if I could get Starfield on there working well, then I would consider. I'd probably use the Ally again to play some more Starfield action. Okay, so here we are. Let's go ahead and do our run through test here. Let me just also, while we're sitting here, let's make sure that we have our fan boost enabled, because I'm not hearing the fan boost. There's the fan boost right there. And we also want the XMG Oasis to be on maximum. It is on maximum, so that's good. So we are in water-cooled mode right now. QHD, minimum settings, DLSS on quality. All right, so Here we are, 154 FPS, 116 for our 1% lows. That is just phenomenal performance. For the stock out of the box performance, I'd be surprised if we're going to get better. Because this is probably the best I've seen. It's close to, equal to at least the best I've seen in Warzone. So what we're going to do is we're going to continue just running up this road. For this test today, we're just going to run up this road until we die, or for a little bit here, until at least we get past this circle. I don't know. Just to give us hopefully some decent consistency in this test and a little bit longer to test. Okay, so there it is, 151, 115 for our performance there, for the out of the box RAM in Warzone 2. All right, excellent. Interesting. We're missing some information. I should open HW info as well. So there's some missing GPU utilization, GPU temperature, and voltage node for the GPU. All right, cool. All right, so we'll go ahead and exit the game. Move on to our next test. We're establishing our baseline. We're looking to do Cyberpunk 2077 next. This is my first time testing Cyberpunk 2077 since basically, I'm just gonna move this make it a little smaller. Since Cyberpunk 2.0 came out a few days ago. So basically, they rehauled the graphics and made it a little bit. From my understanding, they improved the efficiency of Cyberpunk 2077 by a little bit in incorporating DLSS 3.5. And then just optimizing how ray tracing works and some other stuff. So supposedly, at least Kalen, one of my workers, did a test, and he discovered that he got, I think, 5 FPS more with Cyberpunk 2.0. So we can't compare tests with this game versus my old tests. I need to do a new test on Cyberpunk 2077, and that's partially what I wanted to do. I wanted to do a test of these 5 games, like right now, with all of the current drivers and game optimization, so that everything would be as accurate as possible. So we're at 2560 by 1600 full screen. We have ray tracing on ultra, high textures, frame generation enabled. We're going to be to quality for our DLSS super resolution. And so ray tracing ultra, DLSS on quality. All right. Let's go ahead and go to our benchmark. So Austin, there was a 4060, the Lenovo Lock 16 and 15, I believe, we're down to like 900 or something. So that would probably be my recommendation. Well, we had a nice little spike right there for our 1% lows. You can see on our frame time graph, we're getting little jaggies here and there. The hope is that if we have faster memory, those little jaggies go away or they become smaller, because oftentimes those little jaggies are caused from the memory not keeping up with between the CPU and GPU, something bottlenecks there. It's not always caused by slower memory, but as the game loads in assets in and out of the render environment, that is oftentimes a cause of these little jaggies. And that can be NPCs loading in and out, all these different assets that we're seeing, moving from environment to environment. So right now, 121 with 85 for our 1% lows. That is just phenomenal. That is really good. So ultra settings, again, QHD plus. Okay, so for our end result, let me see here. Let me go back to the stream, and we're going to go back a couple of frames. I just want to see the end result right at the very end. So 122.80, 79 for our 1% lows. Our min here is 41.85. That's kind of what one of the things we're going to look at is that min right here. And then, of course, 122.46. We'll see if we get any performance gains. All right. We're going to see if we get any performance gains from getting this memory swapped out. But this is our baseline. All right, let's go ahead and go into Hogwarts next. Yeah, Austin, I think the main thing I would say is if your budget's $1,000, I'd probably go for a 4060. I would try to get a 4060 with the best quality display that I could get. So if you're like, while we were loading these shaders, I'll pop into my laptop list. There's a link in the description to this list. Interesting. So there's an HP Victus 4060 for $987 right now. But this Lenovo Lock 15, I don't know. I didn't love the display. The display quality was pretty meh on it. Jumping down, looking through here. Like, if you get the upgraded version of the display on the Lock 15, then it's probably worth it. But you really want, like, I would try to shoot for a higher sRGB display. I mean, here's the Acer Nitro 5 that I reviewed. The display is certainly better, I think, than this Lock display. If you're going 45% NTSC, is it 70% sRGB? I think that might be the same, actually. Let's see here. But I would look, if you can, I would try to target. Here's a Strix G16 with a 100% sRGB display. This would be pretty nice, I think, for $1,000. That is probably something I would probably recommend over most of the other $1,000 laptops. And then, of course, here's a Nitro 16 with a 400 nits, 100% sRGB display for $1,000 as well. Yeah, so that's what I would probably try to target. Try to look for, here's a Legion Pro 5i, 100% sRGB QHD display, just a little bit over 1,000. So there's quite a few options, but I would really look for that 100% sRGB stat with a high refresh rate display. And I don't know if if you're going to go for a 4050 at least, try to get a better display. If you go for a 4060, you should be able to go for maybe like a 70% sRGB display and a 4060 at $1,000. So it depends on what you want to prioritize there. These are the settings, ultra settings, except low textures and DLSS on quality. Frame generation enabled. We're going to see if we see any performance improvement in Hogsmeade. So in my last live stream, I did test Hogwarts, and I tested it with the 6400 memory in this area, and we were getting some really good FPS and high 1% lows. I think we were getting like 80 for our 1% low. Interesting that our 1% low right now is only 45, but we haven't loaded everything in yet. So you're still doing our initial run around here, looking around left and right, trying to load everything in. All right, so notice these frame time hitches right here. Boom, boom, boom. We're getting some frame time hitches. That's what we want to hopefully get rid of with overclocking our memory. Yeah, definitely had much better performance in Hogsmeade last time. So let's just see what we get on our initial stock run through. Okay, so let's see here. Our 1% low is doing great for our return run through right now. Wow, it's doing really good. Okay, it's coming down a bit. 65. 64. 51. 58. Okay, so 54. So 112, 54 is our stock Hogwarts run through with SK Hynix 5600 at CL46. That's actually pretty dang good. 1% low usually is in like 35 to 40 range on most RTX 4090s with the i9s. Yeah, the Lock 16 should have two M.2 slots. Yeah. But feel free to take a look at my review of the unboxing of the Lock 16. Coder, this is not on Steam Deck. I don't even know why you're asking that question. CPPC says, your 1% lows will likely be better on the Fury, especially if you can tighten the subtimings. That's the goal. Hopefully we can see see better performance, right? That's the goal. Especially 1% lows is the goal. Okay, so we're doing highest settings with ultra ray tracing. Okay, so exclusive full screen, QHD plus resolution, Shadow of the Tomb Raider. Here we go. Okay, so you were saying people are getting 50 to 60 FPS in Starfield on the Ally? That's kind of insane to me, actually. I'll have to look up some optimization guides for it. 2560 by 1600. Exclusive full screen. All right, let's go ahead and run the benchmark. Okay, so Marlon, you clarified. Okay, so it's the Ryzen 7845HX versus Intel i9-13900HX. Yeah, so between those two, I would go with the i9-13900HX probably, because the Ryzen 9 7845HX doesn't have as many cores, I don't think. And the multi-core performance is probably going to be a lot lower. So let me check. Wow, our 1% lows are really good in Shadow of the Tomb Raider already. 171 FPS, 125. You can see our frame time graph being very tight already. So I don't know if we're actually going to see much improvement or not. So the 7845 has 12 cores, 24 threads. So it has more than 8, but it's not the full 1632 core. So yeah, I'd probably go i9-13900HX if it was me. I'm going to reset the benchmark here when we get to the end when we're looking up into the sky here after this initial loading here, all of this, and okay, so now we're going to see what our 1% low average looks like in this part of the benchmark. Insanely high FPS right now, of course, but there's a lot of NPCs in this area. And again, I want to look at the 1% lows when we've got a lot of NPCs on the display. Yeah, I've got the latest drivers LSP. So far, no driver issues, as far as I can tell, but we'll see. I guess I was going to use Star Wars Jedi Survivor, but it did not. It did not want to change the resolutions to 2560 by 1600, so I had to switch to Shadow of the Tomb Raider, which, admittedly, this game is supposed to be fairly memory sensitive anyway. So, wow, our 1% lows are so high already. $207, $138 for that segment of the benchmark is pretty insane. Okay, so we averaged 182 FPS, again, with our overclocked RTX 4090, undervolted i9 13900HX. So, and the default RAM, DDR5-5600. So yeah, this is a fairly optimized laptop, and this is going to be above average for gaming laptops in general right now. So yeah, so there's our baseline, our 5 tests, and then I'm also going to show you. I showed you this a moment ago, but this is our baseline for AIDA64. We'll bring this up again. 83,000 megabits per second, and 87 for our latency. So that's our other baseline that we're going to try to beat with Kingston Fury. Let's go ahead and shut down the laptop. All right. Right now we have no memory overclocking. All right, because we have no memory overclocking, we're going to see what the system just does normally, right? Like when we put the Kingston Fury Impact, does it boot? Does it not boot? Because maybe it won't even boot at all. Yeah. Maybe I'm guessing it will boot, but I'm guessing it also may not be on the right timings. So we'll see what the default timings are for this Kingston Fury. Okay, so it's time to install the memory. All right. We've got our performance baseline, disconnected our water cooler. Time to take apart this laptop. Grabbing my key here. All right, so we're gonna need a Phillips head to take this apart. Got quite a few screws to take out here. There we go. All right, and then we got the 2 screws in the middle. Shabam. All right. Now we gotta start prying this guy apart. I don't think it'll be too hard. Yep, it comes right apart once we get the initial pry started. Okay. Yeah. Trying to remember how this one works. I believe. Oh, and we got, I think we have 2 more screws here on the back for the, to get the rear off, I think. They're the water cooler screws. All right, and yeah, I don't know. We'll see. Trying to get this. Trying to get this laptop to come up here. There we go. Looks like the laptop itself actually comes out here from the back a bit. I did take this apart once already, but hard to remember exactly how it comes apart here. Is Newegg a safe place to buy from? Yeah. Newegg is a place I've bought a lot of my electronics. It's where I bought the memory that we're testing today. There we go. This guy is not really wanting to come off for me right now. There we go. Okay. Watch out. All right, so there it is. Let me go ahead and I'll back this up and tilt it down a little bit more so you can see in okay, so I do recommend to unplug the battery. All right, battery is unplugged. All right. Now the battery's unplugged. There's not live juice going through the system. We can go ahead and take off the RAM. You can see our default RAM right here. There it is. All right, so SK Hynix RAM, we're gonna just set this RAM to the side. All right. We're going to take our Kingston FURY Impact RAM. All right, I'm going to go ahead and show you this. All right. See, it's made in Taiwan, or assembled in Taiwan at least. Okay. And we're going to want to insert this like that. All right. And our next kit, like that. So I'm going to push it in all the way and gently push it down. All right, so we've got our Kingston FURY Impact RAM installed now. All right. Go ahead and plug in the system again. Power reattached. Let's go ahead and we're going to soft put on, I believe, this case because I don't think I want to screw it all back together right now. We're going to snap it back together for now. It's not going to move anywhere, so it doesn't really matter. All right, and so there's that. I am going to move all of these screws. I believe all these screws are the same size except for the 2 water cooler screws, which I can easily know which screws those are. So, all right, and now we're going to go ahead and plug the system back in. And plug our water cooler back in as well. Just a couple of drops came out there at the back. That's why I've got this little paper towel right here. So I can just put that back there and grab those drops. All right. It's time to turn it on. Find out if we can boot with the Kingston FURY Impact RAM. Here we go. Dun to dun. So I'm guessing it's gonna try to detect the RAM here first thing and then see if it can boot or not. So this usually takes like 45 seconds to a minute or something like that during post boot up when there's memory changes. So we'll see if we can get into Windows here shortly. So this is to be expected right now. Everything is to be as expected. I will say it is taking a long time, longer than I would normally expect at this point. Okay, it's not flashing lights anymore. Now it's flashing lights again. Ooh. I don't know. I don't know that we're actually going to be able to boot in here. Ooh. Oh. Oh, yes. Maybe we are booting in. Yeah. All right. I'm like, I'm doing it live right now. This is the first time trying this out right now. So, I don't know what's going to happen with this whole, RAM overclocking, if it's going to even work, or are we stable, like all of that stuff. I don't know. It's all a giant question mark right now. And the bigger question is it worth actually, is it worth actually buying the RAM upgrade? That's our goal right now. Okay, so, ooh, out of the box, we got faster, tighter timings automatically. Look at that. Default. We've got 40, 40, 40, 79, 119, 447, and a command rate of 2. Awesome. So that's great. We already have default timings that are tighter. We didn't have to do anything. Just putting the sticks in gave us these timings. And that's because I believe they're Intel 3.0 XMP certified. So that's likely the reason. So let's go ahead and run Ada 64. And we're going to see what kind of performance we get with our new Kingston FURY Impact. See if we get any improvements here or not. Yeah, it looks like it took, it took a long time to get in to the BIOS. Okay, so out of the box here, we are doing 5,000 megabits faster. So 88,200. I don't want to mess with it when it's running this, so we can get our most accurate test possible. It's not running at 64 until we set it to 6400 in the BIOS. These RAM sticks are rated to run at 6400. Doesn't mean that we'll get it to run at 6400 or for sure, but I think we likely will get it to run at 6400 once we update the settings in the BIOS. But we're going to do this RAM speed test at least for right now. And we're gonna compare performance here in a moment with the stock RAM with these benchmark numbers. Just gotta wait for this benchmark to go through all the way. I'm very curious about the latency. Dun dun dun. I should really pay for the full version of 8064. I don't know how much it costs, but okay, so 77 nanoseconds for our latency stock with this RAM, and that is definitely faster than I believe it was like 87 or something like that for our latency. So 10 nanoseconds faster. And this is, like I said, this is all out of the box. So the defaults are what we're looking at here. 87 or 88 was prior, yeah. So we got, we've definitely had some improvements already in our speed. So without any tuning, we're seeing some improvements. So I mean, what I'm thinking is I'll take this RAM and I'll put it in my Blade 18 when I'm done with this test, and I'll see. I'll have to see what kind of performance I get with that. But I think that I'm going to get the same performance that we're seeing here with my Blade 18. It'll probably default to whatever the stock timings are. I won't be able to tighten the timings to improve the overclock or up the mega transfer speed, but it'll still be better performance than the default SK Hynix that I have in my Blade 18. So for $146, I would probably still be improving my 1% lows and my load times and all that stuff with this RAM. So Austin, I would say that that's a decent deal. If you're, I think you said in an earlier one that it was like $1,100 or something like that, Austin. For $1,100, that's okay as long as the screen is 100% sRGB. Then yeah. But the tricky part is you're just not waiting for a sale, Austin. And if you wait for a sale, you could probably save $100 at least, maybe $150 if you wait for the right sale. So like I would expect that laptop that you're pointing out right there to go on sale for $1,000, especially when it comes up to holiday time with Black Friday and everything. So it just depends on if you're willing to wait or not. But if you're not willing to wait for necessarily the best deal, then that's a decent deal for regular pricing. That's a good deal for regular pricing. Okay, so here we are. 77.7 latency, 88,000 megabits. Let's see what our previous stock test was. All right, so here's our stock test. And here's our new test here on the left. So 88,000 versus, so stock is over here. Kingston Fury stock is over here. So we're 10 nanoseconds faster for our latency, and we're 5,000 megabits faster on our read speed. Looks like our L1 cache is faster on the Kingston Fury by a little bit. Our L2 cache is also faster on the Kingston Fury, with all of it except for the copy speed being slightly different. The L3 cache is actually faster on the SK Hynix. That was one thing I noticed, that with faster, tighter timings, the L2 and L3 cache seem to get worse, honestly. Okay, and then taking another look at the 6400 test. So SK Hynix overclocked to 6400 with 4080 timings. It was actually faster. So the overclocked SK Hynix is still faster, but now we need to do this. You know, we need to actually try to overclock the SK Hynix and get our performance, test our performance improvement. So this is SK Hynix 6400, and this is 5600 Kingston Fury. So there we go. So let's go ahead, and I'm very glad that we got the tighter timings out of the box. Makes me hopeful that I can use the tighter timings on my laptop. So now we're going to go in here and we're going to unlock memory overclocking and the XMG control center. All right, and now we're going to go ahead and shut down. We're going to go ahead and see if we can get the tighter timings to work with the Kingston Fury. All right, so let me pull that up. So we have our reference. All right, so here's our reference for our tighter timings. Let's start it up. And we're going to get into the BIOS here. There we go. All right, and XMP memory overclocking. Here we are. All right, so this is the BIOS. To get here, I didn't show you this, but so we press delete to get into the BIOS as the device is turning on before booting into Windows. We're going to go to the advanced section and we're going to scroll all the way down to memory tuning and XMP profile. All right, so here is our default timings that it loaded with. All right, so that's all of our default timings that we got out of the box. Now we're going to go ahead and see if we can tighten our timings. And we're just going to utilize some of the settings that some of the other users have gotten here on this sheet. We're going to copy line number 9 from Nico. And we're going to try to go to CL32-6400. Okay, so let's go ahead and do it. All right, so here we go. All right, so for memory ratio, we're going to go to 64. CL, we're going to go to 32. TCRD was 40. TRAS, he did 40. Interesting. I don't know if that's correct or not. Interesting. Okay, well, we'll find out. So CWL down to 32. I mean, we're going to see if it posts. If it doesn't post, we're going to start messing with some stuff, you know. TFA down to 16 from 32. His TREFI is 37008. TRFC is set to 400. TRRD is 25. Interesting, from 0 to 25. RTP is set to 20 instead of 21. 84 to 72. 25 for TWTR. TRFCB is 400. And this was also set to 400 for TRFC2. TRFC4 set to 0 still. RRDL down to 8. TRRDS down to 4. I hope he did not make any typos on any of these. So WTRL is down to 24. And then down to 7 on CCDL is still set to 14. Interesting. So there's no oh, there it is. TWTRS is set at 7, which we're not changing. And then we're going to command rate to 2 if we can. All right. And here is our voltages they ran. So VDD, he ran it at 1290. VDDQ 1180. And I don't know if it's worth necessarily copying even the voltages, but probably. And this should still be within safe parameters based on Kingston FURY Impact. I probably should have double checked. I should have double checked that I didn't make any typos there. But now it's going to go into the post boot. You can see that our voltages can go all the way up to 1.35 as rated by the manufacturer, and up to 6400 for this Impact DDR5. So, I believe we're within spec. We're doing the post boot up RGB LED dance right now. You can see it doing the doing that. So we're going to find out if we post. If we post, that means that the system at least thinks it's initially stable. So if you're looking for a killer desktop kit, look up the Team Group T-Create 48 gig 7200 CL34 kit. Interesting. It's guaranteed 8i and runs XMP on every Z690 I've tried. It's actually better than subtimers than any kit. Nice. Well, hopefully you have excellent performance with that kit, sir. I am curious what all of your numbers are in like the 8064 tests, and if you were to benchmark the games exactly as I'm doing it to see, you know, what kind of performance you get on the desktop. The thing is, with a desktop CPU architecture, desktop motherboard, and a desktop graphics card, it's kind of hard to have apples to apples comparisons, but at least the 8064 test is kind of a more apples to apples-y comparison in terms of memory speed, at least. So, will it post or not? Dun, dun, dun. If it doesn't post, we're going to go back in and look at our timings, or maybe try another user's timings. It's posting! Yeah! So that's great that we're getting some post action. Great first step. Positive, very positive. And are we into Windows? We're into Windows. All right. Cool. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and get logged in. All right. We are indeed into Windows. Let's go ahead and see. Let's see if those timings actually took. Because sometimes, you know, when you're doing memory overclocking, maybe the timings don't take and they just revert to defaults in order to boot up. So we got to see if they actually posted and we have the new updated timings or not. So we did not get the tighter timings. See this? We have failed to get tighter timings. 4040. 4079, 119, 447, command rate of 2. So no tighter timings. We're going to have to go into the BIOS again and see if we can try another user settings. All right, so next user settings. There's quite a few users who have used this Kingston FURY. You can see right here, 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 here. There's like 4 different users' experiences here. We just tried the tightest timings, which should give us theoretically the fastest performance. This one also went to 6400 CL36 instead. So we'll try that next. Yeah, the very different set of timings with this guy's settings. All right, so okay. Yeah, Austin, I mean that probably would make you happy. Getting an 1130. I mean, you'd probably be happy with that laptop for a while. Okay, so I wonder, did we mess up any of these other settings? I should have double checked, but let's see here. All of these are the same. Real-time memory disabled. Memory profile, dynamic memory boost. Disabled, real-time memory frequency disabled. OS safe mode enabled. Yeah, so all of those settings are the same, so we didn't have to change those. Okay, good. All right. So we're doing 64. And here's the timings that we're copying. This line of timings right here. We're going to do 36. So CL36, TCRD 39, TRP 39. TRAS is 60. TCL 36. TCRD is 39. Oh, TRP, they're both 39. Oh, okay, yeah. All right, nice. TCWL is 34, so slightly tighter timing there. 32 down to 28. TREFI to 10,920. 768 for TRFC. 021. 72. Let's double check those. TRRD set to 0. TRTP 21. TRW 72. TWTR 0. And then we have 320 for this one. I don't want to say all those numbers and letters, but it's the same one. TRFC2 is 416. Interesting. So it went up to 416. Interesting that they're going up on some of these timings, which is usually your goal is to tighten them. That's like a very tiny change. So I don't know. It just seems a little weird that you'd be changing that. Honestly, I'm inclined to like think that that's like a fat finger or something. 24/7, and then end mode is set to 2. All right, and for our our memory voltage, our memory voltage number didn't change back. It stayed what we had upped it to. So he has 1240 and 1220 for the VDDQ. Interesting, and 1840 for the VPP. And 1200 for the controller. So, which this, I don't think we changed the controller voltage on the last one. And that may have been our problem. If we may not have been able to post that CL32 because we didn't change the voltage controller. Okay, well, we changed it this time. So the voltage controller last time was 1150. Anyway, at least that's what the recommended amount was. All right, so let's go ahead and see what happens on round 2. Can we post? So we're in the waiting game again. Looking at the RGB dance. RGB dancing here. You're getting the full memory tuning experience here on GizmoSlipTech. We're gonna find out. And like I said, just because the timings worked for someone else doesn't mean it's gonna work for us. Because essentially, you need to have an i9 chip that's capable of the timings, and the memory controller that's capable of overclocking, and the memory module needs to be capable of overclocking. The memory module, in theory, I think should at least be able to go to 6400 as a baseline. Like, we should probably be able to do 6400 with the same timings out of the box, but Hey, we posted. That seemed faster too. CPPC Tech, I don't believe there's an XMP profile in the motherboard as an option. I don't believe. But let's... That's a great question, though. I should have checked that when we put these in, clicked around on like the profiles and seeing if we can make it happen or not. Okay, so here we are. We're back in Windows. Let us find out if we have the new tighter timings again. We do. We have CL36 timings. So, yeah. Cast latency 36, 39, 39, 59, 98, 416. Command rate 2. Let us try an AIDA64 benchmark and see if we get any improvements. So I want to make sure Steam's not downloading anything. Okay, good. All right. Here we go. Yeah, and it's running at 6400. So it's 3200 here, but it's doubled. It's a number that's doubled. So we're over 100, basically 101,000 megabits or 101 gigabits. Technically, it's 100.9. You should never have Steam running when doing that. Well, I had Steam running in the background last time, so I want to make sure that we have the... And I've had Steam running when doing each of the tests, but I made sure it wasn't doing anything in the background. So, like it was not downloading or updating anything. Yeah, I mean, if you want to try to get the very, 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 very best results, I would agree. Close all applications. You could try to even clean out all the extra processes running around in Windows. You could do everything. There's a lot of ways you could optimize it. But I'm not saying this is going to be the absolutely best possible benchmarking results. I got to say, this is one interesting thing right off the bat here is that we are not quite as fast as the overclocked SK Hynix 6400. 68 nanoseconds for the latency. The latency went down 9, which is good. But it's interesting that the SK Hynix technically was faster. So the latency is certainly improving a lot. Is very important, and then the read speed going up as well, very important. Rana says, yo. Yo, indeed. So the other thing after we do this is, can we run the AIDA64 stress test, and can we run our games without crashing as well? I'd like to do the AIDA64 stress test and see if it can run for at least a few minutes as well. Bobble Tray says, keep an eye on the memory temps running at 130 degrees Celsius SODIMS will start throwing errors. See if you can source TM5 to test memory. So I'm not sure what you mean source TM5 to test memory, but yeah, I would agree that you want to make sure that your memory is not getting too hot, or yeah, it can throw errors or cause your system probably to shut down. The bigger question for me right now is I don't want to mess with the laptop at the moment, but we'll pull up the temps when we're doing the stress test. I don't believe we're going to run too hot of temps right now. I am hearing like a, I'm not sure. I'm gonna hold them. I'm hearing, I don't know if that's a fan squeak or what this is. But also, Bob of Trades, welcome to the stream. So Bob of Trades is another YouTuber that does tech reviews, and he currently works for Electronics, which is not the manufacturer of this laptop, but works with Tongfeng, who makes the American version, Electronics Mech 17 GP2, which is the very similar, nearly identical version with a different BIOS. So I'm assuming you allow memory tuning in that BIOS too with the Prima BIOS. Is that correct, Bob of all Trades? There's this weird squeaking noise going on. I don't know what that noise is. I'm waiting till the end of this. TM5 is memory testing software. There's a, okay, thanks for the heads up. So I'm not sure. Let's go ahead and see what our hottest memory temps were. So the hottest the memory got is only 77 degrees for the hottest peak. Right now they're 49 and 47. What is this? You guys hear the sound? It's such a weird little woof. Anyway. I think it's it sounds more like the fans. It could be that I don't have everything screwed into the bottom of the laptop right now, right? That makes sense. Okay, so let's compare some results now. Kingston FURY Impact versus the overclocked CL40 SK Hynix. So on the right, we have SK Hynix. On the left, we have the Kingston FURY Impact. SK Hynix was both faster by 1 gigabit per second and 2 nanoseconds on the latency. Very similar. The L1 cache was faster on the Kingston for the right, but these are very similar numbers. I don't think you're going to see too much of a difference in performance on the L2, L3. Like all of these numbers are very similar. So yeah, the main thing here, latency and read speed, they're all very close. So we'll have to see if this actually improves performance or not with the Kingston FURY. I don't know that it'll improve performance more than the SK Hynix. I'm guessing performance will be very similar. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and do our stress tests on system stability. We're going to do the system stress test for system memory. We're going to start that. We've also got our memory temps over here on the right. So the system test has started. And I want it to go at least 2 minutes. All right? At least 2 minutes minimum. And then we will... I prefer to do this at least 20 minutes. I just don't want to do 20 minutes on the live stream. So we're going to go for a few minutes here and see if we're stable in 8064 for the stress test. And you can use other applications for stress testing your memory as well. Bob of Trades mentioned TM5. I know there's like a lot of them. If you just Google stress testing your memory, there's like 6 or 7 applications. Most of them are free. Hey, Rena, I don't give away laptops. I'm sorry. You got to work for the things you get. I'm sorry. Right? At least unless you get really, really lucky. But I just don't give away laptops. So I'm sorry. Okay. moving on. How are we doing? So still has not crashed. Our temps on the RAM right now are 63 degrees on both of them. You can see our voltages are the same voltages that we've upped them to. The temps they're not bad at all. If I didn't have the system fans running, then it may become a problem, but I don't think temps are going to be too hot. This is obviously, it depends on how long you run this too, right? This is the 8064 stress test. You let this run for 5 minutes, they may get hotter. You let them run for 20 minutes, they may even get hotter, you know? So, and right now we do have max fans going on the chassis, so that's going to help move air through the chassis a lot better. If we did not have the max fans on, then you may end up with even warmer temperatures than what we're seeing right here. Most likely you would. Okay, so we've been running for 2.5 minutes now, stable with these timings. Our memory temps are now up to 70.8 degrees. $71. Let it go another minute. The one thing I will say that's different between the SK Hynix and this RAM right now is the SK Hynix was not stable at the speeds that we were running at. Like, we'd have already crashed in AIDA64. It only took like 30 seconds or a minute to crash. Crashed very quickly at 6400 on the SK Hynix. We've got that error correcting code, the ECC, on this RAM, which may help it be more stable when you're overclocking it right now, like the 6400. So that's my current guess, is that's probably the key difference between the SK Hynix and this RAM. Our RAM temps are now up to 72.8 degrees. We have been running the tests for almost 5 minutes. We're going to go one more minute. RAM temps are now up to 73. Almost there. Another 30 seconds or so. And we're going to call it stable enough to go ahead and proceed with the rest of our testing. This is awesome. All right. This is awesome sauce. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and stop this test. You can see we did almost exactly 5 minutes with no problems. Our temps reached a peak of 74 and 77 degrees. So that's great. Overall, I love it. Now we're going to just go ahead and see if we're stable in actual applications and games, and what our performance differences are with the other test that we did, right? So the test we did at the beginning of this live stream. So we're going to put this, I'm going to put this window. Yeah, I'm going to move, let's see here. I'm going to duplicate this and I'm going to move this over to here. Put it there. We'll make this back to big. Okay, and we're going to make this full screen. We're going to go to full resolution. All right, and we're going to go to Starfield first. All right, and I got to make sure that our GH5 browser split window is working here. All right, we can hide our text. So this one, needs to be this is on the left, right? On the left, this is going to be DDR5 6400 CL36. And it'll be Kingston FURY Impact DDR5 36. Okay. And then we're going to go to this one. This one's going to be the SK Hynix stock DDR5 5600. And this is going to be CL. This was ran at CL46. All right. Beautiful. All right. So that's all looking great. Let's go ahead and load into Starfield. Once we get loaded in, we'll be able to get our test parameters set up. Hey, have you checked out the Legion 9i? I have got one on the way, Harsh. We're going to be testing that, and we're going to be testing it at the DDR6400 version of that. So we're going to find out if that makes some performance improvements as well. So out of the box here, you can see that we are still on the same overclock that we were on previously. We're going to go verify our settings are still the same. DLSS on Ultra with dynamic resolution disabled. So the Ultra preset. We're going to go to our Aquila save that we did a moment ago. All right, and we're going to get this set to the right moment in the live stream. All right. And it'll be just like that. All right. Beautiful. Okay, so there's that. And now we need to go to our load. And we actually need to load this save, I think. Awesome. Okay, so on the left side over here, we have the Kingston FURY overclocked and SK Hynix over here on the right side with DDR5-5600 with CL46. So tighter timings and overclocked RAM, higher rated RAM. You can see right now we're doing 95 FPS. All right, 95 FPS on average versus the 90-91 for the, that's the only thing that's changed. Just the RAM. That's the only thing that's changed. All right, so we're going to go ahead and do this test. Here we go. Maybe there'll be literally no difference. And if there's no difference, that's a good thing to know so that people don't waste their money, right? If there is an improvement, then that's also a good thing to know. So people, know that it's worth buying. That's the point and the goal of this video. If there's like no difference, then that's okay too. Okay, so we got 7947 versus 7845. That is very minimal improvement. 1 FPS for our average and 2 FPS for our 1% lows. Super tiny difference. I don't know that we're going to be able to see much of a difference. I don't know. We'll see. Let's move on to our next game. So, that was like a, what is that? 2% gain? It's something, but it could also just be a testing variation. So yeah, let's move on to our next game, which, if I recall correctly, it is Warzone. So let's go ahead and exit this. All right, so Call of Duty Warzone. We're going to test the exact same area again. You reckon 6400 RAM is going to work on an AMD R9 laptop? I don't know. I don't know, honestly. Like XMG and like certain laptop manufacturers have really pushed the edges, you know, the bounds of potential performance, right? And like manufacturers like XMG, MSI, like they're trying to provide memory overclocking profiles. And I just feel like AMD just may not care enough to try to make it work on a laptop. They obviously care very much about desktop users, but the amount of users that actually care about this stuff on laptops is quite a bit smaller than desktops, I think. So I think AMD might view it as just not worth their hassle. I don't know. But I think it may be possible with AMD Expo, but I don't know if there's any support there or not. I have not heard of any AMD laptops being clocked to 6400. Okay, let's just verify our settings are still the same. 2560 by 1600. Minimum DLSS on quality. We are building the shaders up here in the top left. 88%. 94, 95. This shader optimization for some reason is not going through all the way to 100%. It's just chilling at 95% for some reason. And did you see some of these visual glitches we're getting right now? This could be related to the memory right now. I don't know. Did we see any of these glitches last time? I don't think we did. And the fact that shaders are not going to 100%. Usually shaders, once it gets to 90, is like, it's just done. Isn't this interesting? I would call this unstable. Fail on the test. From a basic perspective. So, I mean, I've never, like, we just tested this laptop a moment ago with stock settings, right? And we were not experiencing this kind of issue. So, yeah, I'm pretty sure this is related. So, I'm going to call Warzone 2 a fail. And not worth testing at this point. And then at this point, I'd probably go back and try other settings. So let's move on to Cyberpunk. I mean, I let it cook CPPC for like several minutes. I don't know, like 3 minutes there. It just didn't. It did not like it. So yeah. I mean, that's yeah. Not good. Warzone can be broken. I agree. Warzone can be broken, but I would say that's a failed to test type of a moment. And if I at any point started running into issues like that, glitches in my games that I normally don't see, I would just immediately go back to changing my timings and checking, verifying that things are stable and good. Especially if you know, like, it's been working just fine lately. Okay, so DLSS on quality. Everything else, ray tracing on ultra, frame generation enabled. Let's go ahead and run the benchmark. And I gotta load up this benchmark. Okay, so did I do it? Are we good? Looking good. Let's go ahead and I'll reset the averages here too. So we get average. Whoa. Our Cyberpunk performance is much better. What? Oh my goodness. 116 on average versus 137. Holy shamoly. Are we serious? Oh my. Like now I'm really making the face that I was making in the thumbnail, like, and it's authentic because like that was just for thumbnail purposes. But right now our 1% lows went up over 20 FPS. Our average FPS went up over 20 FPS. Oh my, I want to say God, but I'm just, that is amazing to me. Like that is phenomenally amazing. That level of performance improvement is like the difference from going from an RTX 4080 to a 4090, at least, maybe even more so. 143 FPS on average versus 122, 41 FPS for our min, 57 for our min. And oh my God, that is the biggest performance difference I have seen from a memory upgrade ever. Like, and it's making me go, is something else different? Because DLSS is still set to quality. That's the, like, okay, there it is. Okay, so there's our issue. I'm like, what the heck is going on? There's just no way. There's no way it's that big of a difference. DLSS was set to auto on here, and it defaulted probably to balanced. I should have known. I said it, like, look at this. Right now, it still says it's set to quality. And it sometimes Cyberpunk just does not take it. And you have to set it like 3 times for a Cyberpunk to actually take the thing you're trying to benchmark. Okay. Wow. Okay. Now we have to retest because that's a bunch of malarkey right there. Okay. So back to the testing board. We want to make sure we do a good test. Okay, so now we're back. We're definitely a lot closer in line with what I was expecting. Here we are. We are doing the same FPS. Very, very similar FPS. Almost identical, but our 1% low is better. We're 10% higher with our 1% low right now, which is great. And when you look at the frame time graph, the little blips are smaller. And that is the key. That when you're looking for smoothness in your gameplay, you want these little frame time glitches to be as minimal as possible, because that's what causes the little, like little stutters. And so, yeah, our 1% lows, much better. Our average FPS, very, very similar. Okay, so what do we get now with the actual true settings? 123.51 versus 122.4. So only a 1 FPS increase, that's very minimal. 1 FPS, almost a 1% improvement there. But our min FPS did go from 41 to 65. That's a 50% improvement for the min FPS. The min FPS being like the 0.01% lows or something. Our actual 1% lows that are that the stream recorded was still different. Going back to check out, we had 90. It's 96 for our 1% lows versus 79. Right. This is the 1% lows. This is the very end of the test. 96 for a 1% low. Right here on the left right here versus 79. 1% lows showing a 17 17 FPS improvement, which is huge. That is big. And we could see that visibly on the graph being displayed by our frame time graph with smaller glitches, smaller blips up. So that is very good. That is very good. We at least saw some performance improvement in a game. We saw something that was more than 1%. That was pretty impressive. Okay, so let's go into our next test. What was our next test? Hogwarts. Okay, Hogwarts I think will have a big difference. Intel's website says max is 5600, so I never bothered to upgrade. Right, so Intel official ratings is 5600, but you can theoretically overclock the RAM to higher amounts. And the Lenovo Legion 9i will come with 6400 mega transfer memory out of the box. I don't know what cast latency it is. Probably not as tight as this, but there are options to upgrade the memory outside of the, outside of the Intel official specs and recommendations. There are ways to upgrade it. And that's kind of the part of that's part of what this test is. Like, is it worth it? Is it worth the 1% low improvements or not? So, yeah, and that's the main area where I think you're going to see improvements is the 1% lows. So yeah, like you might get a slight higher improvement to the average FPS, but right now we're only seeing like 1 or 2 FPS difference for our averages, at least in Starfield and in the, what was that? Starfield and Cyberpunk 2077. But the 1% lows in Cyberpunk were much better. So 17 FPS increase to the 1% lows, which I think if that is legit and repeatable, then that is probably worth the money if that's going to translate to a lot of different games. Now we're going to find out if that translates to Hogwarts or not, right? So let's go ahead and go to Hogwarts. I'm tempted to try Warzone one more time just to see if it didn't load right or something. Restart the game, see if it loads better this time. But I don't know. We'll see. Okay, so here we are. Let's go ahead and just do our initial run through and see what we're doing for FPS. Right now, our 1% lows are 68. Very good considering we haven't even ran through the map yet. All right, we're going to look around. We're going to run back now. All right. I'm not sure yet if this is much of an improvement yet. I think it is an improvement, but not like massively so, because it wasn't so bad. Honestly, we'll have to see. Okay, so let's get to the test area on this. Need to make sure everything's lined up correctly. Okay. Yeah, so before we got all the way down to 30. Okay, so here we are. We are ready to do our test. Okay. And I'm going to Alt-Tab. I'm going to press that. I'm going to back this up. And here we go. Hogwarts test. All right, our average FPS right now is 3 or 4 more, but not much difference there. Our 1% low appears to be very similar, actually slightly worse now. Interesting. Let's see what we get when we get to the end. Okay, so our average FPS went from 112 to 117 with the same 1% low of 54. Interesting. The SK Hynix actually did better in this test in my initial test with the 6400 overclock on the SK Hynix. It like was doing like 75, I think, or 80 for our 1% lows, which was obviously better than what we're seeing right now. So pretty interesting. I think this is fascinating. We have a 5 FPS increase though, overall to our average, which is our biggest increase overall for our average FPS so far. Though the 1% low did not change. So it was literally exactly the same. 154 FPS exactly. So let's move on to our next game. Next game is going to be Shadow of the Tomb Raider benchmark. And this one's interesting because it's an older game, but it is also supposed to be fairly memory sensitive, at least at 1080p. But is it actually memory sensitive when you go to QHD resolution? I would guess maybe not. It may not be. So again, verifying that our settings are correct. Highest, ultra. Oh, ray tracing ultra. There we go. All right. Very good. So okay, so Shadow of the Tomb Raider, and then we will try Warzone one more time, just to see. Okay, so highest settings right now. QHD, I believe this is exactly the same settings. Let's go ahead and get positioned in the other video here. All right, and let me go ahead and set this side by side. Go ahead and run the benchmark. Okay, so I believe that is tracking very close, very similarly. So right now, our 1% low is actually it's so close. Our numbers, our averages, and 1% lows are so close between the two. It's hard to tell a difference. Honestly, visually with your eyes, it's literally going to be exactly the same, I think. So is it worth it? Probably not. Maybe not. Let's let the whole test happen. We also got to check the very end scene as well. Our 1% low, just a few FPS higher there. Our average is very, very similar between the two. 1% lows are now going to be messed up for this middle section. We're just looking at the average number here in this section for right now. After this loads through, we're going to do a new measurement of our 1% lows. Average, like our frame time graph looks identical. This is a very GPU bound area with like no NPCs pretty much. So I would expect very good performance for this area. Okay, so now once we load into the next segment, okay, so here we are. How are we doing? All right. The average FPS, very similar, a couple FPS difference. 1% lows, 20 higher on the DDR5-6400. But again, very, very similar. Like I think we'll have to wait to the end of the test, give it a little more time to have everything average out. but numbers are so similar between the two right now. Yeah. So close. Interesting. We're actually doing a little bit better on the DDR5-6400 for our 1% lows, like 2 FPS right now. So I don't know that we're going to see hardly any difference here, actually. Like, what? Yeah. Is it worth it? Spending the $140 for this? I don't know. It does not seem like it to me very much, except maybe Cyberpunk 2077 was the only value that seemed like much of a difference. Let's go ahead and see what our averages were. We got 179 on average with the 6400 kit, 182. So we got 3 FPS less. 3 FPS less with the Kingston FURY Impact RAM. What? So, okay. Overall results of the preliminary test that we did today. Let's do a summary. Well, I guess one more time. Let's load into Warzone. Before we do the summary, let's just see if we can get Warzone to work a second time loading it. I don't think it will. LSP says, so margin of error. Yeah, I would say it was margin of error, except for Cyberpunk was more than margin of error. 17 FPS increase to the 1% low was more than margin of error, but that could, in theory, be test-to-test variance. Honestly, 1% low can be a bit finicky, right? So you need to do more testing to verify, but given these initial numbers, does not seem like it's worth $146 to upgrade, is my initial impression. But maybe more memory tweaking and tuning is required. So we are into Warzone right now. We have loaded shaders all the way. This stuff is still not loading properly, it doesn't look like. Okay, maybe it is loaded now. I don't know. Maybe the game just didn't load properly the first time we ran it. I don't know. It could have just been a Warzone issue because we didn't have any problems in the other games. So let's see here. Let me go ahead and get the... It appears that we may be able to test this. So let's get Warzone positioned correctly. Okay, so I'm going to try to do the initial start of the test here on the plane at the beginning of the plane segment, and then I'll have to make sure it lines up again. Do.
Holding for deployment. Take this time to warm up.
Okay. Okay. Whoa. We're doing so much FPS. I've never seen this much FPS in Warzone before. 178 right now. 182. Wow. Okay, this is impressive. So maybe if you're a Warzone 2 player, it will be worth it. Right now we're waiting for the lobby to fill. Wow. 187 still for our FPS numbers.
Hostiles dropping into the area. Watch the skies.
Wow, 176 right now is the most I've ever seen in this game. Out of any laptop ever. All right. Here we go. Let's see. How are we doing? Wow. Okay, I don't know when I reset the FPS. I'm gonna try to look for when I reset it.
Avoid the gas. Get to the safe zone.
Over 200 FPS for periods of moments here right now. We really got to get down landed looking in the exact same direction, the same way if we want to get a semi-accurate, you know, estimation here. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and skip ahead. All right, here we go. Wow, 170 FPS. Oh, I reset this. I reset the test. Okay, I reset the test.
Enemy surveillance active. Get to cover.
Waiting for the test to come back.
Enemies located.
Okay, so 172 versus 154. Our 1% low is also better at 116 versus 120. Wow. Okay, we're just gonna keep going the same way I kind of did before. I'm trying to look and kind of match it as best I could. Okay. Wow. Okay. This is an improvement. This is definitely a massive improvement. 168 versus 152. Holy smokies. Yeah, very CPU bound game, very memory sensitive game, the most memory sensitive game that we tested today. For sure, and this I think is a verifiable, accurate result because this is the most FPS I've ever seen in Warzone 2 at QHD resolution on any settings, on any computer, ever. So, or at least on these settings. So now we're gonna die to someone, it's gonna kill us. Okay, we're gonna go and exit. Okay, so. Summary. Okay, so how did we do today? Chat. How did we do? Okay, so first of all, our first memory timings at CL32 did not post, but we also messed up one setting. Our memory voltage on the controller was not set to 1200 millivolts. It was set to 1100, so that may have been why it did not post at CL32. I'm actually really let's try those CL32 timings again. I gotta try the CL32 timings again, now that I know. But okay, CL32 timings. Let's go. Because that was some sweet performance improvement, and I just really love to see if we get to 32. Okay, so all right. Okay, so let's go to our memory timings. Here we are. We're going to try this line 9 from Nico for CL32 again. I'm tempted to do like a blend of these two timings put together. Like, I don't know if it would actually work or not. But yeah, I'm tempted just to try CL32 with the same timings that we have right now. Like, what if we just dropped it to 32? Like, if we dropped it to 32 and just tried to run the timings that we already have, would that be too aggressive? I mean, we could see if it posts, but this is where memory tuning is extremely a bit convoluted compared to typical like undervolting, and far more complex. Like, also it's interesting that some of these timings were changed automatically to be slightly above or below what we had before. Okay. Like, I'm really tempted just to leave everything the same and just change our cast latency to 32. Let's just see if that posts. I didn't change anything else, I don't think. Let's find out. Let's find out if this posts. All I did was change CL to 32. Everything else is the same settings as what Nebuchadnezzar had. Instead of CL36, we're going to see if CL32 will run. Oh, Britt Allen says check for XMP settings. Yeah, we could have done that too. CL32 may work. It will come down to if your integrated memory controller is decent enough to run it. Well, we'll find out. Yeah, I'm glad I gave Warzone another shot too. It was really buggy. I've never seen Warzone be that buggy with things jumping in and out of existence. So I just had to assume that it was the timings, right? But yeah, maybe it was just Warzone being Warzone, because Warzone's a very buggy game at times. Yeah, and Britt Allen wants me to check for XMP. Let's see if these timings post first. We know this CL36 timings worked, so maybe this will work with the exact same, with similar timings, just changing the cast latency. Todoroki said, "Hey Gizmo, what's up? Are you vacuuming your room?" Oh, that's so funny. Maybe Battlefield and Modern Warfare 3 remake. Interesting. FPS shooters are very latency sensitive, so there are quite a bit of things you can do. The top players have hella tuned systems. That's true. Brett Allen says, I'm afraid to try XMP on GT77. I mean, most likely, I don't know. I don't know if it's most likely. For memory tuning, I feel like you're either going to run into stability or you're not. I don't think it's likely to damage your system, but you may run into like instability. That's the main downside if you overtune your memory. And it's definitely a lot more complex than undervolting, where you're just changing a couple numbers around and then seeing if it's stable or not. Okay, so we're back in Windows. Let's find out if those new settings successfully were added. What cast latency are we at? And this is where it may take like a fair bit. Yeah, so those settings did not take. We are back to stock default RAM timings. So, yeah. All right, let's go. Let's just see if there are any XMP profiles one more time. Go into the BIOS and check that out. Because I think people would prefer easier default settings. Like on a desktop, usually you have XMP profiles that are likely guaranteed to work. I don't believe we have any of those profile settings in this laptop. So when I was trying to overclock the SK Hynix, there was no XMP profile settings, but this is Intel XMP 3.0 certified, so maybe there would be for this one with this memory. I don't know. So memory profile, there's the default SPD and custom profile. This is the only options for memory profile there. You say do default? These are still grayed out. Yeah, that doesn't, changing these settings doesn't enable dynamic memory boost. I'm not sure what it takes to get those to open up. Let's see here. Dynamic memory boost. Enabled it and disable allows automatic switching. Real-time memory frequency. Enable, disable real-time memory frequency. Yeah, we have to switch it to custom if we want to change any of these other things. Baca, I don't believe this. See, I think there's not enough users and there's not been enough communication between the motherboard manufacturers and the laptop manufacturers and the memory manufacturers to actually get official XMP profiles. It's like these timings in this spreadsheet are the closest equivalent that I know of to XMP profiles. Looking at, or you just going through and fiddling with the memory timings and trying to lower them and tighten them and seeing what's stable. It may take hours to do that, but like that's like the alternative, in my opinion, is like grabbing other users' successful settings and copying them. So this row 10 Nebuchadnezzar, this is the one, Nebuchadnezzar was the, I can't believe I said that. This is the profile that we found successful and stable except for the Warzone 2 issue. Other than that, this one was good. So All right, so summary of results. Let's summarize everything. What did we find out? Okay. In Starfield, we had like a 1% gain in average FPS and 2% gain in 1% lows. That could just be run-to-run variance. Definitely not necessarily guaranteed performance improvement, even in the very CPU-bound city area, right? Let's see here. So Warzone 2, massive improvement to performance. Like we went from 151 average FPS all the way up to like 170 something FPS on average. Let me see if I can show you the as we do the summary. I'll see if I can show you the results side by side. Okay, so here's the Warzone. So 172 FPS on average, 120 for our 1% lows, which is also higher. Went from 154 to 115. So a 5 FPS increase right there. Massive increase overall to the 1% low, to the average FPS in particular. That's right now it's 15 FPS more. Let's go to the end of the test here. 17 FPS more on average and 8 FPS more for our 1% lows. That is a huge performance difference. And I think it primarily comes down to the fact that Warzone 2 is incredibly CPU bound, even at QHD resolution. And therefore, because it's so CPU bound, we are seeing the biggest gain in results in Warzone 2. So very memory sensitive game, very CPU bound sensitive game, very CPU sensitive game. So 168 versus 151. If you're a Warzone 2 player, this memory, totally worth it. Okay, next game we had is, let's do Cyberpunk 2077. So, let me also show the Starfield one. Okay, so here's our Starfield side by side. And you can see we're averaging 85, 84, 83 FPS on both, around 44 for our 1% lows on both. And the frame time graph also looks almost exactly the same. Our GPU wattage is actually pretty high here. It makes me wonder if we are GPU bound in this scenario. Probably are, which normally Starfield tends to be very CPU bound. But in this scenario, we appear to be GPU bound. One interesting difference is our CPU temps are quite a bit better on the left here. But I think that's because we did not have max fans running in this initial test. So, okay. Let's move on to Cyberpunk 2077. Here's the end of that test. Cyberpunk 2077. 120 FPS on both, but our 1% low is a lot better on the 6400 mega transfer memory. So that right there is a 13 FPS gain. I think by the end, the FPS improvement was closer to 17. Yeah, so around a 15, 17, 1% low gain. Our actual average FPS also going up, 123 versus 122. Our min FPS, which is like even more precise than the 1% lows, was 65 on the 6400 memory, which that is pretty significant because that's like the most stuttery it gets is less. Like it's less stuttery on the most stuttery moments. And that kind of stuff can be perceived the min FPS can be perceived at times, but usually it's fairly minor. 1% lows I think are far more important because they represent bigger stutters, bigger jaggies in the 1% lows. So overall, Cyberpunk, we did see a difference, but not a massive one. I don't know if you have the money, it probably is worth it to get the faster RAM if for Cyberpunk, but that's pretty minor. And I don't think it's necessary. If you want to save some money, this is one of those things where it's like entirely optional, but potentially noticeable. All right, and then we're moving on to Hogwarts. Looking at our side-by-side tests with Hogwarts, our average FPS going up about 5 FPS on average, but our 1% low being very similar. 1% low being right around 50. Right here it's showing 58, 54-ish on both. 117 for our average. So very minimal gains for a 1% low, or like for our average. I guess 5 FPS is our biggest average FPS game besides Warzone 2, but still it's not a massive difference. 5 FPS, I don't know. The thing about this is this could just be run-to-run variance. I don't know. But 5 FPS is something that is, I would say, is good to have. 1% low being exactly the same, not that big of a difference. Let's talk Tomb Raider, Shadow of the Tomb Raider. We actually saw worse performance for some reason. So Shadow of the Tomb Raider, 1% low performance was very similar. Our average, if I go ahead and skip ahead, our average FPS was like 182, I believe, with the SK Hynix, and then our average FPS for the Kingston Fury was like 178, which is a 4 FPS difference. It could just be run-to-run variance. Very similar FPS, but it is a bit worse on the Kingston Fury Impact for some reason. It's like, obviously we're GPU bound in this scenario, so it's unlikely to have a big difference anyway. But yeah, I would say that the Shadow of the Tomb Raider performance, just in general, it's very minor. Very minor. And so like I think given the performance that we saw, my thought is if you play highly CPU bound games like Warzone 2, the chances of you seeing performance improvement is far greater. You know, a game like Hogwarts, I would have expected 1% lows to be better with the 6400 memory, but we didn't see that today. We saw better 1% lows with the SK Hynix when we overclocked it. Like, big difference with SK Hynix with the overclock at 6400. This one, not so much. So, yeah, I'm thinking like, if you can get 6400, you have the money, I would say it's probably worth it if you're an enthusiast and you're interested in it. If you're more of a casual user, you don't want to deal with memory timings, you don't want to potentially destabilize your system, not worth it, you know? Not worth it. But I would say that getting to that 5600 may be worth it, especially if your laptop originally came with 4800 memory for some reason. And if it does support 5600, it'd probably be worth it. Brett says, I don't trust myself since I bricked my Clevo. Oh, no. Yeah. Yeah. So the primary question that we're trying to answer today, up here at the top, is the Kingston Fury Impact worth buying? $146 really is not that much extra money to put into it. And if you're buying like a $4,000 laptop, right? That's not a huge investment. But if you're only buying $1,000 or $1,500 laptop, that becomes a bigger chunk of your money. So like my thought is like, if you're gonna spend several $1,000s on a laptop, why not get the faster RAM? Because you probably will see small performance differences in your 1% lows in the CPU bound game titles. and potentially in the densely NPC packed areas of AAA titles. Those are the two areas where this RAM may benefit you the most. Generally for most gamers, I don't think it's going to be worth the hassle. But if you're an enthusiast and you have a laptop that allows overclocking, it probably could be worth it if you, like I said, if you play CPU bound games, or if you're just after the maximum possible performance that you can possibly get, which, you know, if you are buying an XMG Neo 17 or that type of laptop where you're just like craving maximum performance, then yeah, maybe it is worth it in that scenario. But I don't think that really applies to too many gamers out there. And that's really that's the real caveat about this whole thing, is that I'm thinking about the average gamer, and I'm just thinking this is not worth the hassle for the average gamer. The enthusiast who plays esports games probably is worth the hassle, almost for sure. And for the general gamer, may be worth the hassle, but maybe not. That's really kind of like, I think, a very personal question on whether it's worth it for you. Yeah, like I said, enthusiasts or esports gamers, probably worth. Other gamers, probably not. And for general casual people, definitely not. That's my summary of if I were to say it in a sentence. But Warzone 2 gamers, oh yeah, definitely worth. That was the biggest performance improvement in Warzone 2 I've ever seen. So, wow. Okay. I hope this live stream is helpful. Very helpful for me to learn about this stuff. Very interesting for me too. So, I'm going to take a rest. Thank you, Devil Diversio. So, yeah. I just thought it was super interesting to try this. I hope you enjoyed the test. More live streams coming soon. MSI sent me the MSI Bravo 15, which is one of their budget laptops. And then I've got the MSI GE78 and the Legion 9i. Those are the next 3 unboxing reviews that are coming up soon. And potentially more laptops besides them also coming soon. So see you guys soon, or later, or whatever. Anyway. When's the 9i coming in? Probably October 5th or 6th or something, I think was the estimated arrival date. So probably I'll probably actually be testing it around the 7th or 8th, because it'll take a day or 2 to set it up. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see. It may get delayed. It may come early, but I'll try to test it the day or 2 after it arrives. Either way. So see you guys soon in the next live stream.